All right, all right, all right. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. We are here to talk about the comprehensive plan. Can I get a just roll call in the chat here really quick? If you're familiar with the comprehensive plan at all, maybe give yourself your familiarity with the comprehensive plan. Rank yourself in the chat on a scale of one, I know nothing about the comprehensive plan. Two, I know like a couple of things. I've got some emails from How's Our Neighbors, but really not that familiar. Five is I am James and Shirley. I've been following along for the longest time. To put in perspective, I'm probably like a four. So I'm curious where everyone is gonna be sounding this soft in the chat, so we know where we're at. All right, we got a lot of twos. We got a lot of 2.5s, three or fours. Okay, four-ish. Yeah, Caleb's modest. Three or fours. Nice. One out of 10, not even a one out of five. Um, Amazing. Okay, it's really great to know where everyone's at. We're gonna begin our conversation tonight, talking about what the comprehensive plan is, get an intro to the Complete Communities Coalition, kind of talk about how we got to the point we're at, and then we're gonna go into the current phase of the comprehensive plan and what we need you all to do to get engaged to make sure we have a phenomenal comprehensive plan moving forward. Also, I don't know if this is a setting thing, but a lot of people are DMing me their answers in the chat. So if you're trying to engage in the chat, just make sure that you've clicked the chat, like that you're sending messages to everyone. So everyone can hear everyone's wonderful thoughts. Amazing. So yeah, as you see in front of us, our goal is to successfully advocate for all three of these are the How's Our Neighbors in particular CCC priority amendments in phase two of the comprehensive plan. We're going to engage all of y'all in our outreach efforts by educating folks on the comp plan talking points and then providing the skills needed to be effective in advocating. So that's what we're all about tonight. Amanda, do you want to move us along to the next slide? So here's some of the ways that we are going to be engaging. We are going to tonight. We're primarily going to be talking about public comment. Just so for a heads up, if y'all haven't seen the emails, there is a rally and a public hearing next week on the 6th. So we're going to be focusing on making sure that you're delivering effective public comments. But that should also really bleed into a lot of these other things that we're talking about, particularly around contacting city council, tabling, getting the word out, making sure other people are becoming aware of the comprehensive plan, how important it is, and driving them to get engaged as well. We're going to be doing postering, flyering, getting that information around. We'll probably be doing a little bit of canvassing in select neighborhoods. We're going to be attending some community events. We're going to have happy hours. There's lots and lots of ways to get involved to make sure that our comprehensive plan prioritizes housing, make sure that we can all afford to live in this city. Next slide. All right. I kind of jumped ahead of myself. Here's about what you have in front of us. We're going to be talking about the Complete Communities Coalition, how this comp plan process is going to work. I'm going to pass it on over to well, I'm going to talk about phase two, and then we're going to pass it over to Amanda to talk about public comment. We're going to do some breakouts, and we're going to have a really great time. So I'm going to start with the Complete Communities Coalition. The Complete Communities Coalition, I think we're here. We're going to be on this page for a little while. The Complete Communities Coalition is a pretty broad coalition of folks that House Our Neighbors and Futurewise, along with a bunch of other organizations, are all a part of because we have come together specifically to focus on advocating for a bold, comprehensive plan. It involves housing providers, affordable housing providers, builders, labor unions, environmental groups. The Chamber of Commerce is even in there, which is fun. And the entire purpose of us coming together is to make sure that we can upzone our city and prioritize affordability in this comprehensive plan. Um, why are we doing that? Why is this so important? Well, it's because the comprehensive plan is a massive document, and you can do a lot of stuff in it. The way I've heard it described is not everything that's put into the comprehensive plan becomes reality. But if it's not put in the comprehensive plan, it can't become reality. So the comprehensive plan kind of sets the parameters for what we can do in terms of adding new housing and trying to address affordability, density, livability, improve our transit infrastructure, and all sorts of things that we all care about. So I'm going to head us to the next slide, and we're going to take a little bit of a look at the timeline for this comprehensive plan. So if folks weren't aware, and James and Shirley can speak a little bit more to this, we're a little bit behind on our comprehensive plan timeline. Folks may have heard about the comprehensive plan going back to 2021, but really in 2022. So to back up, a comprehensive plan is a state-required plan that the city goes through basically every 10 years. Every one 10-year period, they'll set a plan, and that's the 20-year comprehensive plan. And then in 10 years, they'll go through a big update period. The point of the plan is to zone for our growing city. So to prioritize where we're going to build new housing, figure out transit, figure out where we're going to allocate like resources for businesses, all sorts of stuff. But the big thing is our zoning. It is where the majority of our zoning documents live. In this big, big, big comprehensive plan. And it's this massive process to make it happen. So I'm just going to walk us through a little bit of a timeline to figure out where we've gotten to thus far and how that happened. So going back to part one of the comprehensive plan, which began really in 2021, but kind of took off in 2022. This was the scoping plan. So an important part of this piece here, and you'll hear more about it later, this is where the city kind of started to figure out what the bounds of this comprehensive plan were even going to be and what was going to be studied in the environmental impact study, the EIS, which you'll hear some more about. The EIS basically is this required document to kind of like any zoning change is going to require the city to perform an environmental impact study to kind of like see how the zoning changes are going to affect community and affect the environment. It is necessary to put anything into to make any changes, it has to be studied first. So this scoping phase really kind of like set the bounds of what was even possible to happen within the comprehensive plan. That was way back in 2022, so 4 years ago now, which is super fun. Once we got through the scoping phase, we got into part two, the drafting plan. So this is when the city actually came together and began to draft kind of its broad ideas of the comprehensive plan. This took a while. There's a lot of parts to this. I forgot to say, in the scoping phase, this is when they pulled out all of the alternatives. Anyone here in the room remember Alternative 6? If you know, you know. This is a big advocacy effort of folks like James and Shirley. Oh, I see some hearts. Some folks here might remember. Alternative 6 was this bold plan that we were really pushing to get studied as in the official EIS. That would have like prioritized publicly owned social housing. Long live Alt 6. Yeah, some folks here know. But that's where all that stuff happened. Unfortunately, Alternative 6 did not get studied, but many things did get studied that unfortunately, spoiler, did actually not get included in our former mayor's priorities. So anyway, get to drafting phase. City starts drafting. They're putting a bunch of stuff together, but it's pretty vague. It's just a lot of big blobs on maps. And it's like, here's what our kind of nebulous ideas are about where we might put some neighborhood centers, where we might put some zoning, all things that are going to allow for more housing in more parts of the city. After the draft plan, we got into the review and refine period. This was the super exciting time where if you were people like me, other like land use nerds, you went to these really, really fun community engagement meetings. Aw, Shirley put an Alternative 6 website in the chat for anyone who was around for that. It was really cute to look at. But yeah, this review and refine period is when we started having those super fun meetings with a whole bunch of very wide-ranging opinions of community members in like school auditoriums and stuff around the city. And people started to kind of see the broad strokes of what was going to be happening. The city then kind of took in some feedback uh, and then refined it further. And that moved us into part four. This is when they actually started to write the maps, draw the maps that had the like lot by lot designation of where different zones were going to be. So this is the part when people really saw that their neighborhood, maybe their house was going to be upzoned. This is when a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, the city is going to come in, they're going to steal my house from me, and they're going to build a bunch of apartment buildings on top of it. That is not what the comprehensive plan does. It does not require anything to happen. It simply allows for things to happen. Um, so that was all happening in early 2024. Um, Through 2024, that's when some more advocacy happened until eventually in October of 2024, our amazing former mayor put together his preferred alternative that he sent to council. James is going to share a bit more about the preferred alternative that went forward and what was in it, and crucially, what was left out. And that really kind of kicked us into our advocacy phase last phase of the comp plan. Can I get some folks in the comments who here was engaged in phase one of the comprehensive plan advocacy work? So once it was to city council was looking at about like 120 amendments or something like that. Who here was part of that advocacy work? Let me see some folks in the chat or some reactions. I also see reactions. Yeah. Oh, we had some public comment. We had folks speak a couple times at different meetings. Submit a comment via email. All amazing things. I suspect there are more people than three. Again, I'm still getting some direct messages, so make sure you're putting messages to everybody in there in the chat. Um, yeah, so the folks who are popping off in the chat, these folks were involved in phase one. Um, Phase one of the comprehensive plan was really focused on neighborhood residential areas and what we were going to do in our neighborhood residential areas. So, for folks who don't know, neighborhood residential used to be basically what is single family zoning. Um, uh, this is the majority of the residential part of the city, where if you walk around Seattle, if you drive around Seattle, you will see most of the city just has a bunch of single family houses on it. There's not a lot of density in the majority of the residential areas of Seattle. That is now neighborhood residential. In phase one of the comprehensive plan, we actually did some really good work. Partially due to some state legislation, partially due to some amazing advocacy, we have effectively abolished single-family zoning in Seattle, which is pretty exciting. And we did a lot of really good work to add density into these areas, particularly through our affordability bonuses our density bonuses for affordable and social housing, for stacked flat bonuses, and things of this nature that incentivize greater density in these different places. So that was very exciting. But as many of us know, we have a very long way to go. We did not get everything we wanted, and City Council was able to claw back some of the wins, block some of the things that we wanted, like additional neighborhood centers, which leaves us to where we are today, which is advocating for phase two. And before we get into everything that we're advocating for, James or Shirley is going to talk a little bit about what exactly happened in the Bruce Harrell plan, what happened in phase one, and why we're pretty upset and would love to see things change. So I'm going to hand it over to y'all for that.
Okay, so basically on the slide that we're all looking at together right now, the map on the left is what we studied, is what the city studied that we could have done. So basically the outputs of a comp plan are a map, and the map tells you what you're allowed to build where. And so this map is really, I don't know why they chose this color scheme. It's very hard to tell the difference between the colors, but basically wherever you see any color that's not like the lightest purple is where they were going to allow for more density. So the places that, for example, that are highlighted with that red, those red arrows, that's where we would have been able to build apartments and things like social and affordable housing. Newly would be allowed to, build that kind of thing. But then what happened, this is like during the EIS, the scoping and the EIS phases. But then what happened is that as the city gathered more and more feedback from everybody and a lot of NIMBYs, because NIMBYs even though they're a small, small, small minority of the city, they are very loud and they have a lot of time and a lot of them are retired and they show up to all of these meetings and they say, hey, do not upzone this area because I don't want any new neighbors. I don't want poor people to live near me and other very horrible things that we have cataloged in a list, if James wants to share that. So anyways, after these people say all these things, then the city and the mayor, council, and OPCD, the planning department, they listen and then they make the changes much smaller. So that's basically what where we wrote down NIMBY rollbacks. And this is what we could have had this map on the left, but what we actually got and that we have right now as the current proposal is only this map on the right. I'm so sorry that the colors changed because I don't know why they do that. Sometimes I think it's on purpose to try to confuse us. But basically on this map on the right, anywhere you see orange or red is where they're going to allow those apartments where we can have social and affordable housing, for example. You can see the huge difference. We've calculated like how big that difference is, and it might be up to 90 something percent. It's kind of hard to actually calculate exactly because they mess with the number so that you can't calculate it directly. Like we think that all of these things are things they do on purpose to make it, opaque to us. But you can see that this is not acceptable. We can't just let people, we can't just let the city only allow denser, affordable, and social housing only on these tiny little slivers. And with this current proposal, it's literally one lot wide that you are allowed to build um, denser, social, and affordable housing on these louder, more polluted streets that the buses go on. And we want to at the very least, go back to what we actually studied in the earlier phases of these wider corridors, they're called. Um, I think that covers everything. One other thing I just wanted to say is that, like, when, what is like the process to get council to change this back to the map on the left, right? That's where you guys come in. So it took me a long time to understand like the flow of the process of how we influence stuff and then how they, incorporate it and then make the changes. So basically what happens is that we're going to complain about this map on the right. We're going to say it doesn't do a good enough job and why in our personal stories. And then council is going to hear all that and they're going to propose amendments. So we'll say things like, oh, those slivers should be bigger. And then council is going to come back and they're going to be like, all right, AMR maybe is going to propose an amendment that says, let's make them wider by this much. And then maybe Dion Foster will propose an amendment that says, let's make them this much wider and have these bonuses. And then that those amendments are coming out of things that we're pushing for. And so that's why you guys are so important. And then, once those amendments are proposed, they have to vote on them. And so Jeff will tell you about like the dates of when all these things are going to happen. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say.
Yay. Thank you so much, Shirley. Um, Yeah, I remember if folks I don't know if like your website is in a place where you want it to be, but James and Shirley have truly been cataloging all of this for so long. I owe so much of my understanding to all this comprehensive plan to the two of these folks. And they have a really amazing website called oneseattleforall.org. That I think is a tremendous resource if folks want to check it out and learn some more. But I'm going to move us along. So it's very frustrating that we're in this position due to our former mayor basically pushing back against what community, when engaged, community was very clear that we wanted to see more dense housing because we knew that would help us deliver affordability. We wanted to see affordable housing in all neighborhoods. We wanted housing near transit. And instead, he really pulled these corridors back and gave us a EIS that, well, different people have different opinions. Doesn't allow us to go as far as we want to go. I see a question in the chat. Yeah, totally. Um,
I'm typing a response
oh,
now if you
perfect.
want
Well, I'll keep on going and Shirley answer in the chat, but I'm happy to. We'll have some breakout groups and then some times for some more Q&As as well. But feel free to pop questions into the chat. It sounds like we'll have some chat monitors who will try to answer. And then anyone who's monitoring the chat, feel free to lift them up to me, and I'll try to answer them if I can. Um, all right. So frustrating we're in this position with the mayor. Fortunately, we have a new mayor. We have some new folks on city council, and we have some opportunity in this phase to go bigger and bolder. We're going to talk a lot about phase two in this, but there's other phases coming after. It was going to be four phases, but we had heard an announcement from Mayor Wilson today that maybe the phase three and phase four are going to be crunched into one phase instead of taking 2.5 years. We might just be down to only another year or so in the comprehensive plan, which would be really exciting. Um, and that gives us some opportunity to advocate for more. She's also going to be pushing for a supplemental EIS and instructing a supplemental EIS, which will allow us to go even further than even these alternative five maps that we've seen. But we'll talk about that a bit more at a future training. For now, we're going to stay really focused on phase two of the comprehensive plan and what we're advocating for here. So folks can see there are three main policy priorities that we're going to be talking about. We're going to start with our transit corridors and our push to widen these transit corridors. This is the thing that you'll probably hear us talking about the most. The transit corridor reduction, as Shirley explained, was one of the most significant density reductions within the comprehensive plan, along with the elimination of neighborhood centers that were studied and were not included in the mayor's preferred alternative that he put forward. Were we to go with the corridor plan in alternative four, alternative five, we would see like 50% of neighborhood residential zoning upzoned to allow for like more multifamily housing to at least low-rise zones, which would be an enormous change. Um, so we think that that is super important. Um, Building housing near these transit corridors does so many things for so many people. First and foremost, it just creates more housing opportunity in Seattle. This is really good for affordability. This is also really good for combating suburban sprawl. We have more housing here in the city than we don't have as many people moving out into the suburbs. Future-wise, if folks are here with FutureWise, y'all know FutureWise is the organization that fought for and created Washington's Growth Management Act. And the whole point of the Growth Management Act is to contain our suburban sprawl so that we are not knocking down forests, going into our protected farmlands or forestry, making sure that we still have the beautiful nature that we have here in Washington. And making sure that we build housing in our cities is such an important way of doing that. So transit corridors allow for that, but it's also really intentional. It built more housing near our frequent transit, and this gets people out of cars into transit. This is so important for our environment and for coming anywhere close to achieving our environmental goals and climate goals. It also is really, really important for affordability. If anyone out here is driving, you've seen the gas prices. They're pretty off the walls right now. Um, Building housing near frequent transit where people can walk 5, maybe 8 minutes to a bus stop, where buses come every 15 minutes, is huge. This gives families the opportunity to maybe downsize from two cars down to one car. That means not paying insurance on two cars. That means way less gas. So this is not only super important for the environment, this is important for renters to have more housing options and more affordability, but also creates even deeper affordability promises by reducing car dependency. And if anyone has a car, you know, super expensive. Um, so this is going to be something that we're hammering on again and again and again. Just so folks know, you're going to hear city council say, we can't do this phase. We can't do it. Our hands are tied. We have too much legal risk. Um, from our perspective, that is not the case. Council could put forward an amendment that would expand the transit corridors back to what was studied in alternative four and alternative five. But that's something we're gonna hear a lot. So we really need to be pushing this messaging to make sure that we, prioritize the expansion of these transit corridors. Next priority, passive house density bonuses. So this is particularly important to House Our Neighbors. What this would do, what this would say that any building that is built to passive house standards gets pretty significant density bonuses. When I say a density bonus, that just means that in an area where, let's say, a typical building, a market rate building, is allowed to be built to, let's say, 4 stories. What this would do would say if it's built to passive house standards, that building could instead be built up to 6 stories. That may not seem like a lot, but that's effectively adding 50% more housing onto one lot of land. And when you add more density into a building, it means the cost of each unit in that building goes down. So this allows us to deliver more housing in one place at a lower cost, which means that renters will pay less when they move in. This is particularly important to social housing and House Our Neighbors because every single building that the social housing developer builds will be built to passive house standards. Um, in the chat, does anyone know what passive house standards mean? I know at least one person, particularly maybe an architect in the chat, knows what passive house is and could maybe explain. It is a lot to type out. Rebecca, is that a Y for yes? Do you want to come off mute and try to explain what it is?
I don't know if I can really explain it,
Do
but
your best job.
it's like green building, and so you implement different things so that you have better heat conductivity and cooling conductivity and uh, better energy efficiency.
I have
Absolutely.
a I have a little bit of a comment.
Yeah.
Um, I would say after we're working on the passive house project, the number one most important thing is just how tight the envelope is, just making sure air doesn't get through the building. I worked on passive house projects that do not have extra insulation, so it's a little bit of a, confusion to think that you have to have extra insulation. It's really just a very, very tight air barrier.
Is an envelope an air barrier? What is an envelope when it comes to housing?
Good question. Envelope is like the roof and the exterior walls and the ground. So everything that's like just touching the outside.
Sweet. Yeah, y'all get it. We all don't need to. So shout out to Alex. Alex is an affordable housing architect with lots of experience in passive house development, sustainable design. Very grateful to have you here with us. We don't all have to know as much as Alex does, though. Fortunately, you can still advocate for passive house density bonuses without fully understanding what passive house development is, just like me. Um, so the best thing about this for us is this means that there will be more social housing in more places. And so this is probably our number one policy objective outside of transit corridors for this phase of the comprehensive plan. Lastly, courtyard blocks. So this is a really, really exciting bonus for me and for many folks. This is potentially like, so Mike Eliason is the social housing developers policy and design director. And he has talked a lot about this. If you follow him on Blue Sky, which I feel like many people in this Zoom probably do, he's all about this idea. The idea is to give density bonuses to buildings in when developments you reserve at least a third of the lot for green courtyards. So you can kind of get an idea of what that will look like here with this little graphic. Right now, if y'all have seen a new development go up, odds are you've seen a very standard type of housing, which is like a 6-story building. It's called a 5/1. Uses most of the lot to build housing. Not a lot of the lot is reserved for like a green space, amenity space, or anything like that. What this proposes to do, and there's a whole bunch of different reasons for that. What this proposes to do is say if you reserve 35% of your lot, then you can go much higher. But also, really importantly for this, you get to ignore some kind of like rules about where you build your building on your lot. Right now, there's these things that are required in most of the city. They're called setbacks, front setbacks, side setbacks, and rear setbacks. And what they are is they're basically like if you think of like the very edge of your property, where people would like put up a fence to divide it from their neighbor. In most places, you have to build at least 5 feet, maybe 7 feet away from that edge, in all kind of directions around the property, which leads to just kind of like a lot of like wasted space, kind of outdoor space. So you might see like some strips of like some bushes alongside those areas, but it's not usually enough space for like a big tree to grow or something like that. So what this proposes to do is if you build with this design in mind, you get to build higher and you also get to push out to the edge of the property lines and basically kind of consolidate all of the unused outside space into that courtyard. If folks here have ever been to like any cities in Europe, much of Europe, this is a pretty normal kind of setup. You have buildings that are pulled all the way out to the front of the property. They touch the building next to them. And in the back, there'll be a courtyard that kind of like once you build all the buildings on a whole block like this, a lot of the residents in the area can use. It is a beautiful, beautiful way to design new neighborhoods. So we're really, really excited for this idea. Um, Not only does this allow us to get more housing in kind of the same space, but it means that the kind of quality of the buildings that we're building over the next 20, 30, 40 years are just going to be so much nicer and create much more like vibrant, livable, and enticing communities where there's room for trees to grow, there's place for kids to play, and communities can all connect with each other. All right. So those are our top priorities. After I've talked for so long, I'm going to pass it on over to Amanda, who is going to uh, talk about how we're going to kind of move forward in figuring out our public comment strategy. Take it away, Amanda.
Um, oh, sorry, I was muted. I was just chattering at you guys. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so as Shirley sort of alluded to earlier, public comments are a really important part of this process. Our our city council, our mayor, all of our kind of public elected officials really rely on public input to be able to make decisions about things like the comprehensive plan. And frequently, the loudest, most persistent voices feel uh, the biggest in the room, right? So it's really important for us to show up to speak to the kind of city that we want to live in. And we all know that frequently workers, people with less time, people on the fringes in other ways have less opportunity to speak in public comment sections. So if we're able to, it's a really powerful way for us to help make a difference for people all across the city. And what we're actually really trying to do with these public comments, as was mentioned earlier, is create some amendments to the existing plan so that we can recreate some of the priorities that Jeff talked about as institutionalized efforts across Seattle for affordable housing, for a green city that we all want to live in. So tonight, we're going to do a little bit of workshopping on how to create a strong public comment. We're going to go through a couple of examples, but first, I want to just highlight on a couple of key things about them. The timing or how long a public comment can be can fluctuate based on a lot of factors. Frequently, it can fluctuate by how many people showed up in a given meeting, right? So one thing to know about making a public comment is to be prepared for it to be as short as 30 seconds or as long as 2 minutes. And that can be a little bit of a difficult thing if you're not a public speaker. I've had lots of friends or folks experience coming in with a 2 minute comment ready and being told, oh, you only have 30 seconds, and that can be really tough. So something that I've done in the past is to craft a shorter and a longer version. Then I have both, and I'm more prepared to make public comment, especially if that's something that's less comfortable for you. So again, we're going to work on crafting minute-long public testimony based on the priorities that we just reviewed. And some of the keys of doing that are to make it personal. This is important because our electeds are hearing from organizations frequently. And when we can really tie why these priorities matter to us, it is much easier for them to connect the dots around communities and see why it matters or where the patterns are. So telling your story is not only helpful, it's also something that can help it break through the sort of the noise of form letters and repetitive comments, right? Making it personal is what's going to make it stick out. Make it specific, make it why you want to see this thing. If you're able to apply the ways the priorities would affect your life, I could bike here, I could do this, right? That can be really powerful. Make it honest. Obviously, we want to be part of building a cohesive and a city that's based on mutual respect and organizing communities that are really thriving, and that requires us to kind of be aligned in our values as well and make it timely. The more brief and to the point you can be, the more impactful you will be. So kind of moving into how to do this, the best advice I can give is to pick one priority that really speaks to you and shape your comments around that. If you're trying to pack too much into 3 minutes, it can get dicey really quickly. So I would advise picking one priority that speaks to you and shaping your comments around that priority. So I do have a couple of friends who are going to help us with modeling some of these public comments. So James and Shirley are expert public comment givers and have done it so many times that they're going to be able to share with you some examples. And so I'm going to have them each give you a public comment, one right after the other. And then we'll discuss as a group, kind of see if we can spot some of the differences in those public comments and what maybe made one stronger than the other. So with that, I'll pass it off to James and Shirley.
Okay, so to prepare for this, I was told to write a good public comment and then a mid one. And so, like, hopefully it's good, but it's just the real one that I'm about to use, like when we, go comment in April. So if it's not actually that good, that's my fault, but it's the best I could do. Okay, so I'll just read it to you guys, and then I have a version of it that is more mid. And I do want to say that there's no bad public comment. Like whatever you guys go up there and say is going to be amazing. We're just want to give you tips for making yours more memorable. And like basically, I think of it as my goal is to like haunt the council members' dreams, like with what I said. And they can't help but, have to do something about it and make a good amendment, right? Okay, so all right, I'm just gonna read it. And if you guys want to time me, I literally made this exactly 1 minute. So I know that the probably better advice is to make it like, under 1 minute when 1 minute's your limit. But I like to get as much in there as possible. So I just practice it and make sure that it is literally actually exactly 1 minute. All right. So if anyone wants to time me and hold me to it, here I go. Hi, my name is Shirley, and in my 13 years living in Seattle, I've moved 5 times to chase housing that I can afford. No matter where I've moved, though, it has always meant living along a loud, polluted arterial or highway, like I-5, MLK, and now Lake City Way. This has contributed to my asthma getting progressively worse to the point where I have to use my inhaler every single day, or I literally can't breathe. And I know I'm not alone. Plenty of research has shown that putting dense housing along busy, polluted roads contributes to increased rates of asthma, heart disease, and even dementia. But you all have an incredible opportunity to end this public health nightmare and save countless Seattleites, including me, from these horrible diseases, simply by allowing more housing to be built off of these polluted roads and on quieter neighborhood streets instead. So please extend the width of corridors to at least 4 blocks wide in each direction and add backup zones around large parks so that many more Seattleites, especially those in affordable and social housing, can live long and healthy lives.
That was perfectly 1 minute.
I told you.
Incredible.
And then yeah, so that was like the hopefully good version that might hopefully haunt their dreams. But I have a mid version now that if James wants to read, or I could just read it. I don't know if he wants to.
Either way.
Okay, I just feel like I'm talking too much, but I can just do it. All right, so here we go. Hi, my name is Shirley and I live in Lake City. I believe that everyone should have access to housing on quiet neighborhood streets with lower amounts of pollution, noise, and car traffic volumes. The proposed corridor plan right now only allows denser and more affordable multifamily housing directly on loud, busy, polluted, and dangerous arterials and highways. This is not fair or equitable. No one wants to listen to loud traffic zooming by 24/7 or have to deal with breathing in all of the car exhaust every day. Please add bike lanes and street trees and bus lanes and sidewalks to all of these busy streets so that they can be safer and more pleasant for all users. And please change the zoning plan to allow for more density in more places and not just directly on these busiest streets. Yeah, so like it wasn't very bad. And like I said, you'll never make a bad public comment. None of you. You're like it'll always be at least good enough. But you can see that it was not personal. It was not very specific. And I also went kind of off topic. Like I really do care about adding bike lanes and all that stuff, but like now's not exactly the time to use your 1 minute on that topic because it's not related to the task at hand. So you often hear people accidentally, touch on those kind of irrelevant things, and you're like, no, stop wasting your minute. So yeah, that was my mid comment.
Great question for the group. Any other thoughts on Shirley's mid comment versus exceptional comment? I asked partly because I see people in the chat going, "Wait, no, that was still good."
Are we allowed to just speak or should we put it in the
Yeah,
chat?
please.
Yeah, well, they were both great. But what I really liked about the first one was that you made it so personal, and really led with that and led with, I have asthma and it's gotten so much worse because of this. And I think that, regardless of what you said after that, that's what they're going to remember. That's what I remember is that you talked about that, and that's a bad thing. So yeah, I thought it was a great comment.
I'll add that I feel like the mid version was slightly more rambly. Yeah, it was a little bit less on point, and it was just kind of starting to add stuff.
Any other thoughts on the public comments examples? Okay, we're about to go into breakout rooms, but one more little thing that I want to bring up before we do that is just the idea that learning and building a strong public comment around an issue that you care about can also be really helpful in other ways. Many of you are going to be asked by Han to volunteer over the coming weeks to table with us and to try to help educate other people in the community. And tabling, if you've ever done it, can be a little bit awkward. Like people are walking by you and you're not really sure how to bring them in and talk to them. So thinking about your public comment and about an elevator pitch, which if you've ever heard that phrase, an elevator pitch is just a short hook speech to get somebody into the thing that you're talking about. So thinking of the overlap and how similar a public comment can be to an elevator pitch, it can be really helpful. But also remembering that a good public comment isn't always the best elevator pitch. Sometimes a public comment is super structured, it's too long. An elevator pitch can be even shorter and more hooky. So that's also something to consider working on building out, especially if you're going to plan to volunteer with us over the next month or so at our tabling events. So with that being said, what we're going to do next is split into 4 breakout rooms. We're going to spend about 15, 20 minutes working on building our public comments so that we're actually ready to do this, whether you're coming to the rally that we're going to have with us or whether you're just sending them in yourself independently. We're going to get started on what we want to say and kind of workshop those together in small groups. So we can stop recording now, Jeff, and set up the breakout rooms. So everybody can just like take a minute, take a breath.
Alrighty. I'm so glad that I popped around to every room, and even towards the end there, I heard lots of great thoughts, lots of great workshopping. I would love for just in a minute or two, a person from each group to maybe just share out like one cool thing they heard in a comment.
We had a builder that wanted to build passive social housing, and I think that is very cool.
Well, I also think that passive house social housing is very cool. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. Anybody from room two, three, or four?
In room four, we had a lot of great personal stories. I think something that struck me was someone I won't share who, just I didn't ask for that permission specifically. I'm sure that they live on such a loud arterial that they had to move their bed away from their wall position to in order to get some sleep. Possibly they said another room. I forget exactly the detail.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Really great personal story. Thank you for sharing. All right. Um, rooms four or two?
Um, in
I was
room,
getting texted by people in room two, so I know you have stuff. Or maybe it was room three.
Oh, yeah. I forget the numbers, but I don't think anyone from our room has gone. But someone in our room shared about the comp plan, the transit corridors would allow for seniors to kind of be more autonomous. I have friends whose mom moved back from Paris and she's feeling very kind of trapped in her apartment just because she doesn't live near super accessible transit. She can't run errands like a European city anymore. So just kind of, especially as millennials are aging and thinking about caring for our parents, and then also elders thinking about aging gracefully in a city they love. The comp plan definitely directly impacts that.
Really, really good point. Thank you for sharing. All right, final room. I think I mixed the numbers up, Monica, so sorry for confusing you. I think it's room two who hasn't gone.
It is, and
Nice.
I can speak for us, but I'm kind of hoping someone else, someone who was in the room, is willing to.
Look, I was a teacher for 7 years. I can sit in silence.
Uh-huh, I can too.
I can say something about it. One thing we heard was someone who lives in Tacoma and commutes to their job here in Seattle because they were not able to find housing options, and the commute is really stressful. So we definitely need more housing options all over the city to make it possible to live where you need to live.
Hmm. Wow, what a even just in, 4 quick comments, a wide range of personal experiences that inform why we all care so much about this issue, what motivates us to be at this training tonight, and what we're going to be bringing with us to these comments on Monday. I'm so grateful for y'all for sharing, especially, stuff that is like super personal. I think it's really important to remember that we're talking about this political stuff. We're talking about things that are super wonky sounding, like comprehensive plans and zoning maps and density and lot sizes. But what this translates to is like making sure that we can live near our loved ones so that people can age gracefully and have access to grocery stores. So people can live near their friends and help take care of each other, raise kids together, learn and grow in the city that they love. So that's what we're fighting for. And sharing these stories when we're in front of city council will really kind of bring that to light and hopefully move them to act and bring some of those positive amendments and haunt their dreams, as Shirley said. I think maybe that was not an exact quote, but that's what I took away. Um, Amanda, I wanted to ask if you have any other quick final thoughts before I move on to next steps.
No, I think we're ready for action items so that we can
Hey yo.
get folks on their way. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, the main action item for us tonight is to give public comment and come to the rally on April 6th. One person in our group didn't realize that they could give virtual public comment as well. So if you are a person who has a job, and it is difficult for you to get away. Not all jobs can do this, but starting at 9:30, there is virtual comment that will go up until like probably 12 or so. So there's several hours virtual comment in the morning. If you can't break away, but you can give virtual comment, that is still an option. I will include that information in our follow-up email for you to make sure that you can do that. For those who can, though, we really, really, really want to have a big showing for our rally at City Hall Plaza on Monday. It's starting at noon. We will have pizza. There will be gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian options available for everybody. We will hear from Councilmember Rink, who's going to be there speaking, Colleen Echohawk. Absolutely, you can give virtual comment if you live in Bellingham. Please go for it. Um, uh, just think of a reason why you might, as a person in Bellingham, be motivated to speak to Seattle's comprehensive plan. Um, but yeah, and we might have a super special surprise speaker. We're still waiting for them to confirm. But that's already a pretty stacked lineup. So we're just going to hear from a few folks. We're going to make it very loud and clear to anyone who's watching, hopefully a bunch of press, that Seattle cares about housing, Seattle cares about our climate, Seattle cares about all the things that you all just mentioned. And then we're going to head inside for a long, fun evening of public comment to make sure that we make our position heard, and also we outnumber the anti-housing NIMBYs who, yeah, for whatever their reasons are motivated to prevent us from adding more housing, making life more sustainable and affordable here in this city. So please, please, please come through April 6th. Um, but it's not just that. There's a couple other things that I want you all to really be thinking about. This is just the first public hearing. There is another public hearing. It is coming up on June 4th. So that's a 2-month period. In that time, that's where so much of this work is going to happen. Amendments are getting finalized in the next few weeks, and then council is really going to be kind of deciding what they're going to prioritize. So that is when we are really going to be mobilizing to make sure that we are hitting them with as many different forms of communication as we possibly can, letting them know that we want social housing, affordable housing, sustainable housing, transit-oriented development, all of these things that we talked about in the comprehensive plan. So Amanda will have a whole bunch of tabling opportunities for all of you to come out, come to your farmers market near you, let people know in your neighborhoods, go out, hand out some flyers, do some postering, all sorts of fun stuff. There's going to be tons and tons of ways to get plugged in. We hope that this is just the first of many ways that you are getting involved in the comprehensive plan. All leading up to that June 4th public comment, and then a big push in June before final votes in July. Lastly, oh, Kayla puts in the chat. I'm just going to lift this up really quick. In South Seattle, there's a comp plan town hall on Saturday, April 4th. Caleb puts what I assume is a link to sign up to us, RSVP. Yes, thank you so much, Caleb. Quick shout out to Caleb. Caleb is serves on our planning commission in Seattle. Super, super rad person, has been helping us out with social housing, tons of other amazing stuff. We love Caleb. Thank you so much for coming here, sharing your expertise and knowledge with us, and letting us know how we can get more involved. Okay, next call to action right now. I want everyone to take out their phones. Or I think someone will be dropping the link to this in the chat. We have an action network. You can take action right now, fill out a quick form, and send an email to all city council members and let them know that you mean business. We need all of these priorities passed in the comprehensive plan. There's no time for delays. So I'm going to take 20 seconds, give you all a sec to fill that out and send it away. Let me see if I've got that link for the chat. Do we put it up above?
I've got it. Hang on. I'm going to put it in the chat right.
All right. Give me a heart
Finally.
emoji or your favorite emoji, react emoji once you have sent that email. All right, I'm seeing those hearts. I'm seeing those exclamations. We got more coming. Keep it going. Keep it going. And just so folks know, as we're tabling, this is a lot of what we're going to be doing. We are just going to be pushing for folks who are out in our community to be emailing. We're going to have postcards printed off. If folks were around for phase one of the comprehensive plan, Han printed off these very cute little postcards. We did a lot of postcard writing, handing physical comments, physical cards to council. Fun fact, if you give a physical message to your council member, they have to store it for 7 years. So that's super fun information. So emails are good, and also sending a written letter is pretty fun because they have to store it for 7 years. And I just love that they have to go through that. So we'll have so many opportunities to do that. All right, I've seen enough emojis. Hopefully, folks are wrapping that up. I'm going to move us on to our next slide, which I think is more information about our rally. Make sure you come through. Finally, right on the dot, 7:30. Thank you all so much for being here. I would love, if we can, we're going to stop sharing the screen. If folks want to, I'll stop recording. Thank you, everyone who's watching this online. See you all at the rally.